And if any neighborhood is attentive and focused on community process and grappling with all of the issues that are at hand, Grandview Woodlands is that neighborhood. So I think it's going to get even more attention, that it's part of the neighborhood planning process that has had a ton of attention already and will no doubt continue to get that in the months ahead. So again, I think as expeditiously as we can make this happen, we should. We'll look forward to staff coming back on this and delivering the goods. So thanks again for everyone being involved. We'll look forward to cutting the ribbon on Little Italy soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Robertson. Councillor Affleck, to the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have much to add besides I concur with Councillor Carr. I think that I do worry that this revised motion will get lost in the shuffle, but I think that clearly we're all going to be paying attention. I think that I know that's hilarious to Councillor Reimer, apparently. She doesn't take it very seriously, obviously. But I think it's a serious issue for the neighborhood.
Of other
so, well, she's laughing her head off here right in the middle of my closing, which I think is inappropriate, Madam Chair. So I would say that this is an important issue for the neighborhood. It's important for for what the community needs in the neighborhood and the businesses. And I thank Councillor DeGenova for bringing it forward, and I thank the neighbors and the businesses and all the people involved to come today. And so looking forward to seeing this happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Affleck. Councillor Stevenson.
Thanks very much. Well, I also thank Councillor DeGenova for bringing this forward. In some ways, I was a bit startled that it already hasn't been named, but these things happen. So now, now it will happen. I love Italians, Italian food and Italy and gelato. So I mean, how can you be against? Hey, excellent. So, at any rate, I don't think there's any chance this will get lost. In fact, I think that this makes it much stronger and puts it within a much stronger context. So I really do think if you just kind of let go of being concerned about it, that you'll find that down the road this will be a better place to have lodged it. So anyway, Italians have a hard time of letting go. Well, okay. I'll be voting in favor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Louie.
Not much left to say other than we're looking forward to moving forward. Banners, painting of the crosswalks, and perhaps a few other things that we can dress up the street. I think it's going to make our city look great and make a very vibrant area that's great for tourism, great for the businesses, great for the residents, and community pride as well. And we're looking forward to making that investment in concert with those that are there and with the businesses. And I know that at the end of the day, we're in it together, and we want to make it the best that we can make it, and we'll do it as quickly and as appropriately as possible, despite some of the bickering that you might be hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Louie. Councillor Ball.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor DeGenova. We look forward to the day that we actually get a chance to celebrate on the drive and say a real thank you for everything that's been brought to Vancouver by our Italian community. Thank you.
And before we go to Councillor DeGenova for our closing comments, I'll just briefly say that I couldn't believe it isn't already formally Little Italy. I had no idea. So this will not only make it formal, but it will entrench it in one of the most thorough public processes we've ever had in this city. This is going to be powerful. The other neighborhoods are going to go, well, we wish we had that. So I think we've strengthened it, and I thank Councillor DeGenova for bringing it forward, and I can't wait to, I think the crosswalks is a great idea, Councillor Louie. I'll expect to see you out there with a paint bucket. Councillor DeGenova for your closing comments.
Well, obviously I will support the motion. I'm saddened that it wasn't the original motion that I put forward. I know that Little Saigon, the Punjabi market, Chinatown, none of these areas have gotten caught up in such a process, and it does concern me that there's not a timeline on this process. But if I know Italians, I know that when we show up at Italian Days next year, if it's not really Little Italy, we'll certainly get a piece of their minds. So let's hope it happens before then.
There's a timeline in the report.
Well, let's hope it happens in that timeline. So I'd like to thank the community. This is something that is near and dear to me, being half Italian, and I have to say that it really does it's very important to the Italians that are on the drive. I know that it's difficult, the rents rise, obviously it's difficult. Many businesses have moved out of the area and it's changed, and it's only changed because we haven't recognized it, celebrated it, and made sure that it is a destination for tourism. So I do hope that this goes through. I'm a little bit shocked and surprised after going back and forth about 6 or 7 times with my colleagues to make sure the motion was perfect, that it would be changed again. And it concerns me that we can, regulate a substance here that's illegal in a few months, but something that's been here for 50 years, we can't designate in one afternoon. But I'm just shocked and surprised, but very excited to celebrate and cut the ribbon on Little Italy, as the mayor said. And thank you all for coming out. And thanks to everyone who's been involved, the BIA, the businesses, the neighborhood, and to my colleagues for supporting this. I really do hope that it doesn't get lost a second time in a report. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to move us to a vote on what should be a non-political issue to the voting queue. Okay, that was fast vote. 9 in favor, none opposed. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Can't wait. See you soon. All right, we have one item left. It's a little after 5, but we can slip this one in before we have to run off to other events. We have item number 12, expanding and celebrating patios. Mayor Robertson, would you like to speak to your motion? If you want to put yourself on the queue there. If not, I can hit your microphone. There you go. Okay, you're good.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So this motion is all about both the expansion of patios throughout the city and also about actually celebrating patios and dining and enjoying a beverage outside in beautiful Vancouver. So we've had great success in expanding our patio program in the recent years. We've seen really good success and solid work done by the industry stakeholders to make sure that we do that in an appropriate way and that we have good results, and people both have the opportunity to enjoy more patios and also respect any issues that arise from noise, any complaints that come up. But we had no noise complaints in the expansion of the 2014 summer pilot program, which is great news. So this is really a combination. First and foremost, we want to see the streamlining of the patio process in Vancouver. We want to make this easier for restaurants. We want to be sure that they can use all the great space that surrounds their restaurant, whether it's sidewalks, streets, other public spaces, underutilized spaces as well. Certainly we see fantastic patios and outdoor dining spots in other cities around the world. Montreal does a tremendous job in their summer. Vancouver, we have lots of much better weather for almost the entire year here. So certainly the opportunity to have a lot more activity outside. If you look at similar climates in Europe to Vancouver, you see all kinds of patio and outside dining spaces, even in the wintertime. So I think there's an opportunity to look at new space, looking at rooftop patios as good opportunities as well, and figuring out how to do this process through City Hall, as we've done with a lot of our business licenses and permits, that we streamline that process so it's simple and straightforward for all of the businesses involved to access permits and get them processed. We want to be sure there's been an issue raised around bathrooms. Most of the businesses that have patios only operate them for a few months of the year, and yet they are required to have bathrooms for all those extra seats. And I think Vancouver, we're already way over at one end of the spectrum of having a lot of bathrooms required for the number of seats in a restaurant. It's quite arduous and compared to almost any other jurisdiction. Certainly when you add patios on top of that, that makes it very challenging and even prohibitive for some restaurants to do that. We want to look at best practices with glass or plastic wind barriers. Obviously with rain and wind, we have issues there. The plastic product that's out there, products are certainly not the most attractive looking, don't last very long. So I think there are certainly other cities that are embracing different technologies, different types of barriers, and for wind and weather. I'm sure we can do better on that front, and that also addresses the use of the heating lamps that are on some of these patios, which is fairly prolific. And if we look at our goal to be 100% renewable, that means having different heat sources, different types of enclosures for patios, I think can make them more energy efficient and ensure that they're not burning fuel that we don't need to burn. So there's an opportunity with the barriers and shelters that are associated with patios. Really, I think this is doing a more global look at what is the best patio policy and approach that we see globally. What are those best practices? How do we apply them here where we know we have great opportunities? How do we work with the industry stakeholders to get their input and their best ideas for this and adopt those best practices? So we'll look forward to good consultation by our staff with industry and seeing some real improvements in the program going forward. That's the regulatory side of it that we want to address, and on the celebratory side of it, we would like to see a patio day happen this summer, and that's a day where we can have one-time patio expansion and permits for businesses to celebrate local food and culture in our streets and public spaces, our sidewalks, and really make the most of this and start developing more of a patio culture in our city. I think having an occasion like Patio Day gives us an opportunity to really promote it around the city so people know it's a day where we can all eat and drink locally grown and produced products here on our streets and outside. And that's, I think, an opportunity we have this summer. Love to see it happen. I think the BC Day weekend has a nice ring to it in terms of timing, right in the heart of the hot summer here. So that's it in a nutshell. Hopefully we can move this along speedily so that we have time to organize and promote Patio Day in the summer coming ahead, and we can create more opportunities for patios for businesses in Vancouver in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Robertson. We do have a speaker, Charles Gauthier. You made it, and you've the last speaker of the day.
Great.
Welcome. You know the rules.
Yes, I do. My clock is started. I don't know where it is.
I'll start. I got it.
Okay.
I have control over your clock.
Want to come here today, and I'm sure that a number of my other colleagues from the other BIs would have been here as well, to come and support this motion. You know, it's not just to come and speak when we have concerns about something being proposed to council but also to come here when there's something that we want to show our full support of. In particular, I want to talk about the 6 bullet points, not all of them, but some of them. On the first one, identifying opportunities to enable patio size increases, and it goes on. What we want to encourage council to do is also look at perhaps backlane activations where that might work well, because I think there's some great opportunities there. It could play a variety of different roles in terms of enlivening the backlanes. And also maybe looking at special occasion patio expansions when there are festivals and events that are happening. We've had some great experience in terms of providing additional seating. We're the ones that have been doing the movable bistro tables and chairs throughout the downtown area. They're the ones that are really colorful, really like to move around. We did the first one in 2013 in what's referred to as Lot 19. That's a little space between the 2 private clubs, the Terminal City Club and the Vancouver Club, above the Easy Park location. And it's just been amazing how people have adopted that space. And it's not tied to any particular restaurant. And that's the other thing, is that we should be providing additional seating where people can bring their own lunches and basically celebrate being outdoors. We went from the 1 in Lot 19, and we're now at 6 within the DVBI area. And the other 5 are actually on privately owned but publicly accessible plazas. And again, we see the same thing. People have flocked to those. They're using them. They're not necessarily buying lunches from any of the nearby restaurants. And the city has experience in doing that as well with the parklets, which the most notable one is the one at Robson and Burrard outside the Cafe Crepe. No requirement for people to buy a meal there, but they can use that space to just relax and perhaps have a beverage or a meal. On item 5, which is the adopt best practices related to the use of glass or plastic wind barriers. You'll recall during the 2010 Winter Olympics, there was a relaxation on this particular issue where you allowed all three sides of an exterior patio on public space to be covered. And that was taken away. And so that front face now is typically exposed unless a restaurant is doing that they're doing it without permission and if they don't get caught. But your bylaw enforcement officers have been clamping down on that. And there is a bit of a contradiction there because on privately owned space where there is a patio, and I can cite a number of examples, you are allowing all three sides to be covered. So I hope that as you move forward on this is that you can relax what's currently not being permitted in public space attached to restaurants. And then on the last point, second to last point, in regards to adopting best practices for patios from other cities, the best example I have is when I went to a conference in downtown Milwaukee a couple of years ago, and it was one of the downtown restaurants that actually had 2 sofas and a coffee table on the public sidewalk with no gates, with no barriers. And I thought that was so neat. Literally it was the living room of the downtown. And I think that we need to find ways to be innovative and creative and not necessarily put up barriers or structures that would discourage people from using those spaces. And last but not least, on the issue of consulting with industry stakeholders, I'm going to ask that you consider including the BIAs in that, either whether or not the motion has changed or not. I don't think that's material, but the BIAs would be interested in providing some feedback and commentary on that. But overall, we're very supportive of this motion. When I saw it, I thought, we need to come here. I wish other BIAs would have had the opportunity to do so, but I know that many of them would be supportive of this as well. I can't speak on behalf of them, but I think they'd be supportive of this. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Gauthier, and some great suggestions there. Councillor Carr has some questions for you.
I just have one. Thank you so much for coming and staying, persevering through all the
I
time.
actually just arrived.
Oh, okay, then you follow the online.
Yes, I did.
Just one question, and that has to do with something that the mayor spoke to in his verbal comments around best practices on glass or plastic wind barriers, and that is the attempt to use that as a means to reduce the burners, the heat lamps, et cetera, that are used. How is it possible to really tackle that issue around the patios? Lots of citizens do comment about it. I know that it's desirable, but on the other hand, we are a city aiming to be 100% renewable energy.
I think that one might be best to go back to the restaurants and the industry itself and ask them those questions. I wouldn't want to comment on that, but I think it's part of your plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and if you can find innovative ways of doing it, but I think the industry would have to be consulted on that directly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. That's all of our speakers. Thank you very much. And do we have any questions or debate to the motion? Councillor Carr, to the motion.
Yes, I will support the motion. I'm wondering if we need to actually include with industry stakeholders and add the words "and BIAs."
No, they are absolutely industry stakeholders.
You would consider that?
Very clear.
That's fine, then I'm speaking in support of the motion.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm going to move us to the queue, the final voting queue of the day, one would hope. Okay, if everyone can vote, myself included. Councillor Louis, you need to vote. Okay, the vote has been finished. It is 9 in favor, none opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 12 on today's agenda. The Standing Committee portion of this meeting is now complete and will convene in regular council. Mr. Mayor. I have to get your microphone.
Thank you, Councillor Deal. So we'll now reconvene the regular council meeting to deal with the recommendations and actions from our Standing Committee on Planning, Transportation and Environment meeting. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Robertson's in the chair. Councillor Louis. Present. Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Deal. Here. Councillor Jang. Not present. Councillor Reimer. Councillor Meggs. Not present. Councillor Ball. Councillor Carr. Councillor Affleck. And Councillor DiGenova. Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And we need a motion to adopt the Standing Committee's recommendations. I've got Councillor Louis on the queue.
I'm happy to support the recommendations with one exception. This is in regards to a motion that was adopted on consent. I apologize, I was absent from that portion of the meeting where it quickly was adopted. This was item number 8, the options to install 1,000 new bicycle parking spaces and such. I've distributed an amendment to the recommendations of the committee. No, this is item number 8, motion, which was options to install 1,000 bicycle parking spaces. No, it's not a bylaw. So
Recommendations of the committee are being considered. So Councillor Louis, you have a change?
I do. So I've distributed to the clerk. The recommendation of the committee was as set out by Councillor Affleck when he moved the motion, but there are, I feel, substantial issues with the language that was both proposed by the mover of the motion and adopted by committee. At this stage, we're in council, and I would prefer the language that I've set out, and hopefully the clerk's been able to distribute it.
Madam Clerk, can you just clarify the process here for Councillor Ball?
While council is sitting as committee, the decisions that are made are actually recommendations to council. And so it's during the council phase that those recommendations are adopted. What's occurring here is that the councillor is proposing a change to the recommendation that had come forward from standing committee. So
it's been done before. This world right here, in this council chambers. So if I might continue, the language proposal that I'm putting forward is that it is a minimum of 1,000 new bicycle parking spaces rather than stating just 1,000, that if staff are able to identify additional locations that they should. Not that they are all to be secured and locking and storage bicycle spaces in the downtown area, but we open it to the entire city, that it could be other types of parking spaces, because fully secured spaces aren't necessarily the best option depending on where they might be located, and certainly a lot cheaper if we were to install a lot different types of bicycle spots around the city as well. Also, that's the last change that I'm proposing, is that in locations to best serve demand and encourage bicycle uses, because it's not always just about meeting demand, it's about shaping bicycle usage as well, and it's important for us to encourage bicycle usage all around our city as opposed to, as the original motion states, just in the downtown area. So that is what I am proposing.
Thank you, Councillor Louis. To the motion, this is an amendment to the motion. Councillor DiGenova, you have a point of order? We're in council. Okay, that's not actually a point of order. But thank you for that suggestion. We do have actually a council sister city event starting very soon. We have several speakers on the queue, and we also have another matter of urgent business on the National Pharmacare Program motion. So I think noting that, it's probably best for people to have some time to digest this and the National Pharmacare Program. I'm going to suggest that we do come back.
it as friendly, or is it lawful to be given? So I can accept this as a friendly amendment. I
It's
understand.
not yours. You can't. It's the recommendation.
We just have to vote on it ultimately, but
It's not his.
I think we just vote on it. It's fine. Just get it done. If you're okay with that, Mr. Mayor.
So let's just go to a vote if he's fine with it.
so Councillor Affleck, did you, yeah, he wasn't here. He missed it.
So I think this morning, if I may, this morning, there's a bit of chaos this morning. I think that there was a misunderstanding, so I'm fine with these changes. I just wasn't sure if Councillor Louis was, so let's go to a vote, I would say.
Okay, so Councillor, that's Councillor, Councillor DeGenova, did you want to speak to the motion, or?
No, only if everyone was going to speak. I was just concerned about time and digesting this. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Reimer to the motion.
Just for clarity's sake, noting the last item that important information got lost in the written record around Little Italy. On this one, it's very important that we're voting on the amendment, or it will make no sense as to why a new motion suddenly showed up in council. So we'll vote on amendment, and then we'll move to, okay.
Okay. No.
As I,
Sorry.
It's a motion to the committee's recommendation.
Okay. Is everyone clear that we are voting for this new language in the motion? Okay. As moved by Councillor Louis. So everyone has, I should have switched to the chair.
Are you in favor or opposed?
Okay, so we have all votes in and unanimous support. So now
Do we need to have a discussion on pharmacare?
so we need a motion to adopt the standing committee's recommendations. Moved by Councillor Louis, seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Deal. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. We do have one item of urgent business, the motion regarding the National Pharmacare Program, which is moved and seconded. And was there debate on that motion? Councillor Louis?
I don't have much to add other than what I've introduced previously, was to give members of council the opportunity to digest it a bit more. I think it makes sense. Many initiatives across the country, in fact, all the premiers, as I understand it, were in favor. It just could not get past the federal government to have it adopted, and it's renewing a call to save and make less expensive access to proper medical health care.
Okay. Any speakers to that National Pharmacare Program motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the queue, the voting. Oh. Okay. We're voting on the National Pharmacare Program motion. Okay, we have 9 votes, all in favor of that motion. So that motion carries unanimously, and we have concluded our council business for the day, and we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Ball, seconded by Councillor DeGenova.
Okay, let's go.
All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. So this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, council and clerks.